Hey, everybody. Well,
Year-old boy. Was he guilty of that?
Yes, the petitioner pled guilty to that.
Okay, so he raped a 9-year-old boy. He also raped a 17-year-old girl. Was he guilty of that?
He pled guilty. The petitioner pled guilty to that crime as well.
So was he guilty?
I hope so, because she pled guilty to it.
He was a he.
yeah, you heard that, and Ted Cruz caught it as well. She pled guilty to that crime. This is a whole ass man, and Ted Cruz is going to go on to describe this man is over 6 foot tall. So we're talking about a big guy who has sexually assaulted, raped both a little boy and a little girl, and this judge is referring to him as she.
He when he did this.
That's correct.
1 year after being released again, he was convicted of having child pornography. Is that correct?
I'm unclear on exactly the time frame that you're at, but the petitioner was convicted of distributing child pornography.
Child pornography that was images of adults violently raping children.
Abhorrent conduct.
Okay.
For which there are real victims.
And this individual, 6'2", biologically a man. A minute ago, you said that when this man decided that he was a she, you said this individual was, quote, I wrote it down, sober and entirely a female. That phrase struck me as remarkable. Did this individual have male genitalia?
I think what I said, or at least what
that is a verbatim quote, entirely a female.
Sorry, what I meant to say was hormonally a female.
Okay, but that's not entirely. Did this individual have male genitalia?
Yes.
So you took a 6'2" serial rapist, serial child rapist with male genitalia, and he said, you know, I'd like to be in a women's prison. And your answer was, that sounds great to me. Let me ask you something. The other women in that prison, do they have any rights?
Is that a question you're asking me?
Yes, the other women in that prison, do they have any rights?
Of course.
Do they have the right not to have a 6'2" man who is a repeat serial rapist put in as their cellmate?
Senator Cruz, I considered the facts presented to me, and I reached a decision based on what the law is.
I asked you a question. Do they have a right not to have a 6'2" man who is a serial rapist put in as their cellmate? Do those women have a right to that?
Every person who's incarcerated has the right to be safe in their space.
But you didn't think so.
It's just so crazy to me to hear these words being uttered by an actual woman. Like, honestly, how absolutely dare you? I hate to invoke a joke there, but how absolutely dare you put a full-ass man within a women's facility? And a lot of people, or at least I saw some people saying, you know, Ted Cruz is going really hard on her, you know, and she's just answering his questions, like this is just a sign of the times, whatever. No, you do have to go hard on these people at some point with what it is they're doing and who they are affecting. This guy may not go on to offend another woman or assault another woman in the prison. It still doesn't matter. He should not be there. He shouldn't be there, you know, fundamentally because he is a man, regardless of the crimes that he's committed. But when you add on top of that this is somebody who is sexually assaulted and raped multiple individuals, who has also purchased or, you know, had downloaded child pornography, it's even more insane to think that you are going to usher this person into a new facility where they are stronger, most likely, than everybody around them. They already have this underlying predatory nature to them, and you're just gonna hand them around and give a ton of women over to this guy, essentially. Who is going to be the female cellmate that has to be in the same vicinity as this individual day in and day out? And a lot of people sort of write off what's happening in the prison system right now because we view people who have committed crimes as lesser, but they are not lesser. They have rights, they should have safety, they should have privacy, especially when it comes to sharing their space with biological men. It's absolutely ridiculous. And a lot of these women who are in prison are already victimized by, correctional officers and people of authority within the prison, and they have very little voice to begin with and very little means to advocate for themselves and to create real change in the environment that they are subject to, regardless of how you feel about their committing of a crime. But then to have a judge, somebody who is supposed to protect people, to provide valid judgments, also send another predator into a female space with everything that they're already dealing with within the prison system is absolutely insane. It's insane to hear this. And the fact that she is just straight-facedly defending the choices that she's making and saying that this is just her applying the law should astound everybody. And I'm glad that it astounds Ted Cruz so much that he does not let her leave on the issue. He continues to go after her.
Yeah, the stone cold face and the ability to just listen to someone lay out for you how you are doing the precise opposite of what you're saying that you believe in, which is protecting the right to women's safety in a prison, and you're the one, signing the order to effectively send a 6'2" serial rapist in among women is just insane. But it betrays this notion that when you are so committed to an ideology, and you're shown the harm that ideology causes, you kind of have to go numb, and you have to block out what the negative effects of your worldview is causing, because it doesn't fit inside your worldview. It doesn't compute. So rather than bear the tension of that cognitive dissonance and engage with it in good faith, which would lead you back to reality and back to common sense that everyone else can see, you can just see the wheels stop turning. She's shutting down, and it's just kind of like this does not compute, and I'm sorry. No, and even as she's talking, it's not just the stone cold faceness. She's still referring to the person with she pronouns when it was a man, and then correcting and saying the petitioner so that Ted didn't call her out again on it. It's like there's still this rigidity of the ideology is clearly still there and hovering over her. And when being confronted with the horror of what the consequence of her ideology causes, it's just like a blank stare, which is just a symbol of ideological possession, essentially.
Yep, they have most certainly lost the plot. Let's see if we can find it, though.
You didn't think so. And in fact, I'm going to give some quotes from your order, because Senator Kennedy is right. This is not a judge's order. This is a political activist. By the way, the beginning of your order says, at birth, people are typically assigned a gender. I got to say that would astonish a lot of Americans. A lot of Americans think you go to the hospital, a baby is born, and congratulations, you have a little boy, a little girl. The assigned a gender, I know you went to Brown, but it sounds like it's in a college faculty lounge with no bearing on reality. The Bureau of Prison argued what I'm saying right now, that if you put this person in a female prison, there will be a risk of sexual assault to the women. And you know what you did? You said you didn't care about the women. Have you dealt in what universe is someone who is a serial repeat child rapist not at a risk of reoffending?
And I'm going to let her answer that question in just a little bit. A lot of people think, okay, well, then we'll just keep people who have committed acts of sexual violence out of female facilities. What about a guy who was convicted of possession of drugs or something like that, and he now identifies as a woman and wants to move over to a female facility? There is a reason that biological men are kept in one facility and biological women are kept in others. We can look at a story out of New Jersey where a man was transferred over to a female prison. Not one, but two female prisoners ended up engaging in intercourse with this individual, and I believe one or both of them ended up being pregnant. So now you have one or two female pregnant inmates, and this would never occur had you kept biological men separate from biological women. Even if they engage in a consensual act within the prison system, it is not okay. There is so many distinct reasons why we keep men and women conviction separate. So it doesn't even really matter that this guy is a sexual offender, although it makes things 100 times worse in this scenario. It matters that he is a man. And to sort of spin that truth because this guy says, oh, my pronouns are she, her, is so ridiculous that I'm struggling to give more words than what I just say time and time again, that this is awful. Now I want to hear what this judge has to say about her judgment on whether or not this guy is going to reoffend.
Senator, as I do in every case.
Okay, I know you've been told to repeat the line, I follow the law. I asked a question. In what universe is someone who is a serial repeat child rapist not at risk of reoffending?
Sir, I looked at the facts that were before me in this case. All of the evidence, including the statements of every warden who had supervised this petitioner.
I have to say, if I were the father of one of those women, and you decided that my daughter's cellmate was going to be a 6'2" man who over and over and over again committed violent sexual assault, I would say the entire justice system is absurd, and it is clear on your record your political ideology matters a heck of a lot more than the rights of those women that you endangered. I think you're a radical, and I think you have no business being a judge.
He ate. What comes after 7? Okay. Let's talk about all the different things and unpack more here. Her whole argument was going to be, oh, well, we got statements from all the different wardens that have sort of watched as this guy has traveled his way through the prison system after multiple, repeat offenses of rape and sexual assault. And they said they probably don't think he's going to go and reoffend, which happens all the time. How many times do you get a news story of a crime happening, a murder happening, a rape happening, and then you look into this guy's rap sheet and his criminal history, and it's like dropping a toilet paper roll on the ground how long the damn list is of these people offending over and over and over again. But the warden, who probably barely ever sees this inmate, told you that he's probably not going to reoffend because he hasn't done anything while he's been in prison, right? This 6-foot-something man who's used to perpetrating against children hasn't done anything since he's been in the prison system with a bunch of other men. Shocking that they're coming to the judgment that he may not reoffend if moved over to a female prison. If this guy was willing to victimize the most vulnerable in our society, which is children, what do you think is going to be happening when you give him a ton of different women who are more vulnerable than him to be around day in and day out? And J.K. Rowling has spoken about this considerably, as what's happening in Scotland is very similar. Just what's happening in the West in general is very similar. We started off by saying, oh, it's just sports. Who cares? Oh, it's no problem. You guys don't really even watch women's sports anyways. And people said, well, wait a second. I think this is going to travel further. I think more is going to happen here. And if you give room in sports, it's going to go to bathrooms and locker rooms. And then they went, oh, well, who cares? You should use the bathroom that you want to use, whatever one matches your gender identity. And then you have little girls who get raped in their school in the bathroom by boys who identify as women, supposedly. And they go, well, that's just a sacrifice we have to make in the name of gender identity. Well, wait a second. What about the prison systems? What about these already vulnerable women who are already being victimized, probably multiple times within their stay within prison? Should we allow men to go there? Oh, well, in the name of gender identity, I guess if the rapist said that his pronouns are she, her, hers, it doesn't matter that he has a penis. Let's go ahead and send him in there with all the women. Oh, we have pregnant female inmates? Well, I guess it's another sacrifice we're going to have to make in the name of gender identity. So how many more female victims does there need to be before something changes here? That's just an open-ended question for anybody who supports this ideology. And then people turn around and call us misogynists for advocating for and attempting to protect the women who are going to be placed in these situations. What woman in their right rational mind would want to be in a cell with a random 6-foot-something man who is known for committing rapes against children? Who? Certainly not the judge that's sitting right in front of Ted Cruz. She's never going to experience something like that. So it's so easy for her to write up a document where she says that this guy was assigned male at birth and is actually a woman, and send a predator into a prison full of prey. Because she will never, ever experience it. And she is so deluded by her own political agenda that she doesn't even care. And when Ted Cruz finishes it up by saying, you shouldn't be a judge, or you have no right being a judge, he is absolutely right. If you are this ideologically possessed in a position that is meant to protect people from criminals, protect people who haven't actually committed crimes when they're in your courtroom, protect the people who you send to prison as a judge. There are so many things askew, so many things wrong. And I'm glad that she got called out. Now, is it going to make a change, or is it going to impact anything? Is she still going to sit in that, Southern court in New York? I don't know, but at least we're airing out the dirty laundry here, because that is a heinous thing to do in somebody who has her position of power.
Yeah, and it's important, I think, that Ted Cruz did, even if they do have the votes or whatever to get this judge confirmed, which hopefully, knock on wood, they don't. But it's good to kind of establish that paper trail and that record, so to speak, of being able to say, we called this out. We said this is what is going to happen whenever that harm inevitably does occur, because we can see the giant red blinking sign saying, this is a huge opportunity for a serial predator, serial rapist, someone with greater strength, someone who's male in a female space, to make this happen. And I'm reminded of a Jubilee episode that we reacted to recently of, like, I don't remember exactly what the premise was, but it was around the issue of women's spaces. And one of the women on the leftist side was kind of a similar radical who actually worked with victims of sexual assault, but said that in the case of women's bathrooms and whatnot, we have to allow people who identify as women, men who identify as women in there. And the best that we can do is report that after the fact. Mm-hmm. And that was basically the point that that's the best that she had to offer in response to, hey, isn't it going to create the opportunity for people who aren't just innocently identifying or have genuine gender dysphoria and are just going into the women's space? It's creating the opportunity for predators to enter those spaces. And her only response was, well, the best we can do is just report it after it happens. And it's like, how crazy do you have to be to and how ideologically possessed, again, do you have to be willing to suffer rape, sexual assault, crazy crimes against women, against who we espouse that we protect and want to and should protect? How many instances of that do you have to allow to happen before you wake up to the simple reality? And I think that is reflected in what you're hearing in Ted's voice, and his passion and his righteous indignation, if you will, is coming out, because I think that's how a lot of Americans feel like when it comes to this issue. And frankly, a lot of other issues, like when we talk about the border, we had riots with the COVID stuff, and we're tired of the ideologically possessed who are obsessed with controlling the institutions and controlling levers of power in our society. And they seep into all of our institutions and impose the stuff from the top down. And then inevitably, as we could all see was going to be the case, the damage is done and the harm happens and is committed. And we all just have to pick up the pieces, and hopefully eventually we can work our way back to reality. And that's why at least Ted Cruz is on the record here saying this is what's going to happen if this judge is confirmed.
And it's just awful in so many ways. And it sucks that you even have to use an example of somebody who's a sexual predator here, because even if you bring it back to, again, a guy who's committed a nonviolent crime, this is disgusting. And I know a lot of people separate prisoners from people who are living out in society because they are viewed as less than, but they are not less than. And I want you to picture your life and the scenario that these women are going to be placed in with this guy who is now living with them. Imagine waking up in the morning and there's a guy in the bed next door to you, just, waking up, watching you two. They have a lot of shared bathrooms in these prisons. Sometimes you have a toilet toilet right in your cell that you will be forced to use in front of this person when they go out for their recreational activities or the jobs that they take on in the prison or the classes that they do in this prison. You are now forced to be around this man. If you need to shower in prison, which is oftenly done in the open with everybody around you in like these very dirty facilities, you get to now have a man who's doing the same thing right next to you. Women have their time of the month in prison, have to deal with that very openly around other women, and you now have to go through that with a man right next to you. It's absolutely awful. And if we pictured the scenario with people living out in civilization, you'd think something would be done about it, but no, we're still subjecting, girls in their sports to men being in their locker rooms and at the spa and all these different things. We are 100% lost. We're 100% lost when it comes to everything that's happening right now on this issue. And as I said, Riley initially posted this video. She's going to be on the show tomorrow, and we're going to be debunking a ton of TikToks surrounding the trans sports debate. So I'm excited for that. We just have to keep calling these people out. And I'm so glad Ted Cruz got to call that judge out straight to her face. Not that it made her come to any realization, but, fingers crossed on that. Now we're going to get to another Delulu lefty. This is Sonny Hostin on The View, talking about Caitlin Clark, the WNBA player who I think was just signed or drafted to Indiana. And she's been creating a lot of buzz. Of course, a lot of people are watching women's sports now because of figures like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, but Caitlin Clark is definitely up there. I think actually the WNBA and just women's basketball in general has been viewed more in this year than it has really in any other time in history. So that's the legacy that she's building for herself as we speak. And Sonny Hostin has some comments on that legacy and why it's being created.
I've been a basketball fan since I can remember. I played basketball with my dad in Harlem when I was 5 years old. So I remember loving the game, and the game not necessarily loving women back, right? At all. And the WNBA started in 1996. First games played in 1997. It's 2024, and we're just really now talking about it. And so if Caitlin Clark is the vehicle that will bring this sport that I have loved so much and so long to little 5-year-old girls playing in Harlem, I say yes, bravo. I have no problem with that. With that being said, I do think that there is a thing called pretty privilege. There is a thing called white privilege. There is a thing called tall privilege. And we have to acknowledge that. And so part of it is about race, because if you think about the Brittany Griners of the world, why did she have to go to play in Russia?
Because they wouldn't pay her.
Because they wouldn't pay her.
Because they wouldn't pay, not because she was black, but because they didn't believe in the WNBA.
This is part of my point. So now, Caitlin Clark is bringing this money, these sponsorships, we hope, into the league, and other players will benefit from it. But I do think that she is more relatable to more people because she's white, because she's attractive. And unfortunately, there still is that stigma against the LGBTQ plus community. 70% of the WNBA is black. A third of the players are in the LGBTQ plus community. And we have to do something about that stigma in this country. I think that people have a problem with basketball playing women that are lesbians. Who cares? They are great athletes.
Well, you can't tell a lesbian unless he tells you she's a lesbian. Well, it's not like you look over and go, oh, there's one. You don't know.
They're pretty open in the league, and I'm happy that
they're open in the league. Yes, but
okay. There's so much here that is so wrong. On the lesbian thing, as Whoopi Goldberg said, how do you know when somebody's a lesbian unless they outright go ahead and tell you? What is she talking about? That people are, discriminatory toward lesbian basketball players. I've never heard that in my life. And at the same time that Caitlin Clark was rising to prominence, Angel Reese, who is a black female basketball player, was getting just about as much press as she was getting. So how do you justify that happening? What was happening with Angel Reese, and why did she, as a black woman, rise to the top alongside Caitlin Clark? And that initial feud that they had that everybody was reporting on, how exactly did that happen? And why is it that I know her name as well? And it's interesting that they say a stat like, 73% of the WNBA is black. Okay, by your own admission then, Caitlin Clark is functioning as a minority within this group. So she's actually rising to prominence in a field that is typically dominated by another race. And there's no sort of sentiment shared that that is the case. Nobody looks at Eminem, who came up in the rap game surrounded by black guys, and goes, it's due to his white privilege that he really came up in the rap game. And, you know, Eminem became one of the greatest rappers of all time. It's because he's a white guy and he utilized his white privilege within the black community in order to build his space. No, he showed up as a white guy who had a skill that white guys don't normally have, and then he proved himself, much to the dismay of a lot of black people who were sort of pushing him to the margins and saying, you don't deserve to be here, you're not a member of this community, you can't relate to this community. Is that not exactly what Caitlin Clark and probably every other white person who makes it into the NBA is doing? They have to prove themselves despite the fact that they are white. You always hear the whole white man can't jump thing. The same thing could be said for somebody like Caitlin Clark. So, is she not a minority within the WNBA space? And despite all that, you're getting what you want, supposedly what you want. As Sonny Hostin claims to be such a big fan of basketball, even though she's had how much time on The View to bring up the WNBA and sort of make it a topic that people talk about in her position of power on her pedestal. You've had all this time to do so. But now Caitlin Clark has come in and done that for you. And you still have to bring her down on the basis of white and pretty privilege. Make it make sense. They can't have anything that goes against their narrative, even if it goes well for them and you're getting what you want as this sort of WNBA endorsing feminist. And I gotta say, on the point of them not being paid enough, the WNBA is subsidized by the NBA, right? They're getting paid what is proportional, honestly not even, to what they're doing and the viewership that they're getting. So that's just what the market has valued their playing at. And Caitlin Clark and the Angel Reeses of the world and this next lineup of WNBA players are the ones who are ushering the WNBA into a new version of itself that people want to watch. And they say, you know, the WNBA has been around for, 20 plus years. I think even maybe almost 30 years the WNBA has been around. It takes time for things like that to build. It takes time to build an audience. And if that time is 30 years, then so be it. You better hope that you get a ton more Caitlin Clarks in the WNBA if what you truly want is viewership and engagement for women in their sports. But that's not what you truly want. Because if it was, you would be cheering on Caitlin Clark, and you would be saying that she's doing an amazing thing and not bringing her down on the basis of white and pretty privilege. It's just so nuts to me. Crazy.
The math is not mathing. Make it make sense.
Really
all
not.
Of Amala's little sayings. But yeah, I wonder how many WNBA games that Sonny Hostin watched last year, if she's really such a big basketball fan, or how many she's ever been to in person, if this is something that's so meaningful to her. Now maybe it's a lot, but I just doubt it. And it speaks to the issue of, again, why the pay is lower is because, in YouTube world, we have an acronym, TAM, total addressable market. And it's this idea that this is all of the possible people that your product, that your video can appeal to, can reach. That is a finite number, right? And you think about the NBA's total addressable market is a lot of people. Anyone who's interested in basketball being played at the highest levels possible wants to see it. And when you get in storylines and drama and talented phenomenons like the Steph Currys or whatever, more people enter in. But generally speaking, that's a pretty large pie. The WNBA is going to just naturally be a smaller pie because men in general are not going to be as interested in watching women's sports. And that's the WNBA, to be fair, has been growing. But I think it's delusional to think that the total addressable market of the WNBA will ever be the same size as the NBA, and that's not because of necessarily discrimination or anything. It's largely because women don't really watch the WNBA and don't really care that much, and that's just part of life. That's not an indictment on anything, and it's nice and good that the NBA subsidizes the WNBA, and I think it's awesome that we had people like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese in that rivalry this year. I think it was like the most watched women's college basketball final ever this year. and like there's clearly like some growth happening and those exciting things. So to undercut that with race narratives, you're doing a massive disservice to the sport and to its growth, because people are going to be turned off by your making this all about homophobia and racism being the reasons why people don't want to watch it. And then you're going to get into like Hollywood when they make a bad movie that is full of all this forced diversity and forced LGBTQ stuff into every nook and cranny of the entire plot and film, and then you're like blaming the audience for not going and calling them racist and homophobic because they didn't go. Like, do you think that's going to make people want to watch your show if you do that? And similarly, do you think that's going to make people want to watch the WNBA by calling them sexist and appealing to Caitlin Clark's whiteness and pretty privilege as the reason people are finally paying attention? It's just silly, Sonny Hostin. So I'm sorry, it's just I'm over it.
It's not. Meanwhile, you know damn well if a bunch of like, I don't know, 6'6" men start identifying as women and wanting to play within the WNBA, Sonny Hostin would be cheering them on and be like, this is all about inclusion and like this is representation for the LGBTQ community, while they push out the Caitlin Clarks and the Angel Reeses and all these other players. You know damn well she would be there on The View supporting that and just cheering it on. She does not care. And this whole like, little girls in Harlem need to be able to play basketball too. I'm sorry, y'all. The last thing like children in the hood need is another basketball representative. I think we've got that pretty much covered for both women and men. And maybe we should be focusing on far more important things. Sports is great. It's great for people in the inner city. It's great for kids all over. I hope everybody gets involved in some sort of sport to build, you know, sportsmanship and play with a team and socialize and all these different things. But we don't need to be held to this narrative that we constantly need to like encourage basketball careers within the Black community as if it's something owned by Black people. And that is inherently what Sonny Hostin is insinuating when she's making these arguments, and she is lost in the sauce. Now we're going to continue on sports. I'm Sporty McSportington today as we circle back to the Harrison Butker story. For those of you who are somehow unaware of this, y'all Patrick Starr living under a rock if you haven't heard this story. Harrison Butker did a graduation speech at Benedictine College where he essentially said, my wife's life began when, you know, she met me and started our family, and now she's a homemaker, and women have been sold lies, and it's important to, you know, build families, build homes, and take care of those families and homes. For men, it's important that you are, you know, active within your family, you're providing for your family, yada, yada, yada. This went crazy. There was a petition signed by nearly 300,000 people to have him essentially kicked off the Kansas City Chiefs, no pun intended, as he is the kicker on the team. And now the Kansas City Chiefs players are coming out and defending him. Most recently, Pat Mahomes has gone viral with almost 10 million views on X, where he gives his thoughts on what's happening with Harrison Butker. Let's watch.
I know Harrison. I've known him for 7 years, and I judge him by the character that he shows every single day, and that's a good person. That's someone who cares about the people around him, cares about his family, and wants to make a good impact in society. When you're in the locker room, there's a lot of people from a lot of different areas of life, and they have a lot of different views on everything, and we're not always going to agree, but and there's certain things that he said that I don't necessarily agree with, but I understand the person that he is, and he's trying to do whatever he can to lead people in the right direction, and that might not be the same values as I have, but at the same time, I'm going to judge him by the character that he shows every single day. That's a great person, and we'll continue to move along and try to help build each other up to make ourselves better every single day. But at the end of the day, we're going to come together as a team, and I think that'll help out as well as eliminating those distractions outside the building as well.
The guys are good with that. They understand. I mean, they understand how things work. I mean, everybody's got their own opinion. And that's what's so great about this country. You can share those things and you work through it. And that's what guys do.
What makes the locker room so cool is you're able to have those discussions and become better and make those decisions for yourself. And so even though there are very vast, I guess, differences as far as those speeches happening at the same time, I mean, you're able to talk to guys and you get knowledge.
It's so funny because we're like all throughout the past, like, I don't know, probably like 8-10 years, we've been talking about like locker room talk. The guys have locker room talk. I want to grab her by the blah, 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 and she's going to like it. Meanwhile, the Kansas City Chiefs locker room talk is like, I think that my wife's life began when she met me and built our home. And it's so beautiful that she makes me the man I am today and encourages me to do the work that I do to protect and provide for my family. And that's the locker room talk. And then these like SJWs on the internet are like, what do you mean my change.org petition didn't get him fired from the Kansas City Chiefs, where he's like one of the best kickers in the NFL? We got over 200,000 signatures. Oh my gosh, if the worst thing you can do is like be Catholic and say that women should be wives and homemakers and husbands should protect and provide for your family, we are in a hell of a state as a country. It's just insane to listen to this. And you would think that this was like, I don't know, like a murder case or something, that they have to come forward and explain the behavior of their fellow teammate and talk about the differences in their values and how they apply them in the world and blah, blah, blah. All he said was his Catholic values, essentially, to a room of other Catholics that were cheering him on and agreeing with him and wanted to hear what he had to say. And they're treating it like it's a press conference for some, like he got secretly outed for committing some sort of heinous crime. Nuts. Nuts is like the theme of this show.
Yeah, it's Tom World. We're living in the upside down, when there are probably plenty of instances, not probably, there definitely are plenty of instances of NFL players engaging in all sorts of criminal activities and just insane domestic violence and murder and shootings and all kinds of stuff like that. And I don't see the press asking high-profile players about those instances, but it's a much bigger story when we have a guy espousing traditional values at a traditional Catholic school in an environment that has nothing to do with his role as a kicker on the team or anything like that. It's just crazy. It just shows how upside down we are as a society of what makes headlines, what's considered controversial. So, but I also, as much of a black pill as that is, I guess, it is also encouraging to see Andy Reid, the coach, and Pat Mahomes, the quarterback, pretty much have his back in this situation. And I think that's what you want to see, especially like in a locker room and guys together on a team. Like, you know, you can put aside your personal qualms, whatever they may be. And hey, dude, we've got each other's back. We're all on the team together. We're going out there to do something. I know you from day in and day out. I know your character and I love you. And we're in this together to fight. And I'm not going to let these things distract us. I'm not going to let your personal views to poison what we're trying to accomplish together here as a team. That's all what you want. And I think for an Andy Reid's case, I think he is a man of faith and is more probably sympathetic to Butker's views and didn't seem to try to create much distance between them and his own. But even so, I mean, I think that it was handled well and appropriately. And I think as discouraging as it is to see the fact that we're having this clown world conversation and how viral it went, it is encouraging at least to see common sense prevail within the locker room.
Yeah, somebody put in the comments, normal phobia. Shout out to you, Grass. That is literally what it is. It is normal phobia. It's so crazy too, because you see like these, I think about like these wedding vow videos that go super viral where like the man's reading his speech to his wife and saying, you know, like my life began on the day I met you, and or my life begins today when we're married, and everybody's in the comments like, oh my gosh, that's like so cute. If my husband doesn't cry at our wedding, like I'm leaving him at the altar, I don't want him anymore, blah, 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 blah. And then Harrison Butker gets up and repeats what his wife said, which is that her life began when she got married with him and they built their family. And that's the most heinous thing a man could possibly say. Yet if you switch the venue out, put her in a wedding dress, and she said it out loud, all the comments would be like, oh my God, that's so sweet. I want this for my life. If he wanted to, he would. All these different things. It's so absolutely nuts that this speech has gone as viral as it has. We've now talked about it on 3 shows because people will not shut up.
I see some of y'all eye rolling in the chat too.
Hey,
like, not this again.
Not this again is how I feel too. But hey, it's what the people are talking about. We're gonna finish out this video and then we'll get into your guys' super chats.
Make your own decisions at the end of the day, and I think that's what makes this country so great. Is that you're able to get as much knowledge as you can, and then you make your own decisions. And it gets a little divisive divisive sometimes when you get to social media and you get to outside the building, but in the building you can have those healthy discussions and still be friends at the end of the day, even though you might not agree with exactly the same things.
I didn't talk to him about this. Didn't think we need to. We're a microcosm of life here. Everybody's from different areas, different religions, different races, and so we all get along. We all respect each other's opinions, and not necessarily do we go by those, but we respect everybody to have a voice. It's a great thing about America, man, and we're just, like I said, a microcosm of that. And I wish, my wish is that everybody could kind of follow that. So, yeah.
With so many women just on staff here and in the building, his comments kind of touched on women in the workforce. What do you tell them if they come to you with a concern about players speaking ill of, women in general?
Yeah, that hasn't happened. I don't think he was speaking ill to women, but he has his opinions, and we all respect that. I let you guys in this room, and you have a lot of opinions that I don't like. So.
There you go. That's how that should be held. He's like, what are you talking about? I didn't sit him down and talk with him about this shit. I don't care. You guys care. You guys made this into an issue, and it's not an issue for me or anybody else on the team. It's not like Harrison Butker showed up to practice one day with a whip to hit the cheerleaders and tell them to go in the kitchen and make a sandwich. He just made a statement about his own personal values within his own family. Meanwhile, he goes to work every single day to work around other women who are taking on different positions within the NFL and to support the NFL. And I don't think he's telling them to go home to their husbands and, take care of their children. I'm pretty sure he's chilling, just living in his own personal values and sharing them with people who agree, like he did at the college. It's just so insane that this is viral. You know what? I was more pissed off when Travis Kelce pushed Andy Reid during the Super Bowl. I thought maybe that could have used a little press conference about how we treat our elders and how we don't, push people to begin with. But no, we're talking about some guy's comments about how he loves his wife and she loves him. So nuts, guys, nuts. There was nuts in the first story with Ted Cruz. Literally, a guy with nuts is being transferred over to a female prison. There's nuts on this Pat Mahomes story. There's no nuts, I guess, in the WNBA story, but there's nuts within Sonny Hostin's brain. That is the recurring theme throughout this entire show. And now we're going to get into your super chats. Also, so many people, just as a side note, were invoking Taylor Swift in their arguments against Harrison Butker. And they're like, everybody's watching the Kansas City Chiefs and all these women are watching because, Taylor Swift brought them over there, a strong and powerful woman who isn't in the kitchen making sandwiches. And then Travis Kelce was like, yeah, I don't care about what Harrison Butker said. He's cool. Like, it's fine. It's not a big problem. So I want those Swifties who are like hopping in here to maybe think about what Taylor Swift's personal values are, because I have a feeling they might just not align with everything that she's, shown in her persona. And Travis Kelce is sitting there chilling. The boyfriend to the woman that everybody's trying to invoke in this argument is like, yeah, he's cool.
Little sus, guys. Little sus.
It's a little sus.
And yeah, we're gonna start needing to air a nut allergy warning at the beginning of these shows with how much nuts is going on in the
Get
stories.
your EpiPens, guys. Get your EpiPens.
All right, super chat time. Happy Friday, everybody. Johnny G is our first one. Actually, Justin was our first one, but he didn't say anything. Just sent a little $2 super chat. We appreciate you, Justin, and your anonymous gift. I'm not anonymous, but empty.
Yeah, empty
message. Johnny G says, new show, the Mamala at the Nobi show. Do you want to change that to
we need you to be Mamala of the country. Oh gosh, horrific.
You know what else? We could get you to make a track called Mamala. And then play that as the countdown song. And then we can't claim that copyright.
Yeah, hold up, guys. I'm going to be spending my weekend on GarageBand making this song up for you guys.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone would love to hear that.
Absolutely.
Actually, I think they would, but
they probably would.
Not going to happen. A comparative historian says the people living 200 years from now will use things like this to consider us as uncivilized barbarians.
Yeah, you'd hope. I hope that we evolve in the other direction to where this starts being used in reference as like the dark times of the West in our future history books. But I have a feeling they're not. It's either going to be seen as like a cultural renaissance or like the dark times, the pits of hell in the West.
Yeah, like we had the medieval dark ages, but now we're going to have like the dark 2.0 ages.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
35 never felt so good says happy weekend A and Tay. Amala, put on your Sporty McSportington hat. Who plays who tonight in basketball? If you get it wrong, then I'm gonna masterport Las Perras in 2028 when I become president.
Absolutely no guess whatsoever. I don't even know what part of the season.
You're not like Sonny Hostin and a huge basketball fan.
Absolutely not. Let me guess.
What a disgrace to the girls in the Bronx, Amala.
I know. Oh, did you see those videos of like all the people in the Bronx showing up to the Trump rally? And they're like, we're not voting Democrat. We hate this stuff. Bring us our boy Trump. Anyways, let me guess. Hilarious. It's the Denver Nuggets. Is it? I've been hearing the Nuggets a lot. The Timberwolves. Is it really?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the Lakers.
And the Lakers are out. Oh. It's the Western Conference Finals. So the winner goes to play in the NBA Finals, and it's the Timberwolves against the Dallas Mavericks.
Wow, I would have never. I didn't even know the Dallas Mavericks existed, so would have never gotten that one. I've been all of a sudden hopping on the bandwagon because the Timberwolves have, I think, statistically been the losingest team in all of the major sports for the past like 20 something years, like horrible. And I'm from Minnesota originally, Minnesota Timberwolves. So they've just been awful my whole life. And now they finally have climbed the mountain, and they have a really exciting player who's like the second coming of Michael Jordan named Anthony Edwards. I've seen Anthony Edwards.
Anyway, they're doing very good, and they lost game 1, but the game 2 is tonight. So
nice. Wasn't Anthony Edwards in that Adam Sandler movie about basketball? Did you guys watch that?
I didn't see it, but
he definitely was.
I keep seeing memes of Anthony Edwards like in a movie role that he played that people are alluding to. So I imagine that it's in Adam Sandler's basketball movie called Hustle. It's on Netflix. Actually, a really good movie. I watched it. I thought it was good. It's like I love a good like inspiring sports movie, and that was it. So shout out to Adam Sandler. Have you seen Remember the Titans?
I've not.
Oh my gosh, that's a classic.
I don't remember
Ryan
the
Gosling
Titans.
is in it, by the way. And he's an absolute liability at cornerback on defense.
Okay.
But
Nice.
yeah, you got to see Remember the Titans. That's classic. One of Denzel's great performances too. It's a Disney movie, so you wouldn't think it, but like, oh my gosh, dude, he nails it.
I'll have to check that out.
So anyway, go Wolves. Kat McCollum says the passion of the cruise.
The passion of the cruise. Oh my gosh. Wow. For all the Christians out there.
Well played. Chase Staton says, thanks for helping my first hours in the freezer go by fast the past 6 months or so. Love your takes. Glad to catch a live. Hope y'all are doing well.
Someone let him out of the freezer.
What he's doing in a freezer.
Somebody get this guy out of the freezer. Are you like a butcher, or are you like in the food industry, food packing? I don't know what's going on, but somebody get this guy out of the freezer.
Someone said he works at a morgue. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. I hope. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I was just watching this episode. I've been watching Home Improvement with my wife, and they had this episode where Tim Allen is like making the man's kitchen, and they have this giant freezer in it, and they open up the freezer and there's like an actual butcher inside the freezer just chilling, and he's like, what kind of meat do you want today? You know, I'll have the porterhouse, I'll have the filet mignon. And then they just like close the door casually. It's like, isn't he gonna freeze it up in there? Anyways,
classic.
The cheesy 90s comedy, gotta love it.
Classic.
Timothy W says, happy Friday, Amelin Taylor. Tomorrow is my 18th birthday, and there's a school dance with the girl I like. I'm gonna put myself out there and friggin' go for it.
Okay, absolutely. There's a chime for that. Happy birthday, and go get your girl at the dance. Get it a Cinderella moment.
Yeah, show her this clip and tell her that Amala and Taylor say you have to say yes.
That's actually right. And she's gonna be like, ew, I hate conservatives.
unless you're a creeper though, and
yes.
Then maybe
unless you're weird, then don't do that. But go for it.
Hopefully you haven't been listening too much to Alex 35 Never Felt So Good.
Oh my gosh, he's
advice about cold approaching women in spaces.
Yeah.
And looks maxing is okay, I guess. 30. Speaking of, 35 Never Felt So Good again says, Taylor, can you refresh my memory? Which team did Caitlin Clark play for, and which team did they beat in the NCAA tournament? I forgot. LOL.
I have no clue.
Caitlin Clark played for Iowa Hawkeyes, and they played against LSU, my alma mater, and beat us, which was Angel Reese's team. And actually, that wasn't the finals, but that was in the tournament. But last year, Angel Reese and LSU beat them and won the national championship.
Ooh.
So, you know, it's even. And Caitlin ended up not getting the national championship. So
There you go.
I don't know. Lyman de Coconut says, consider Serena Williams, a black female athlete, more famous than any WNBA player. The difference in popularity comes from the WNBA being unpopular.
Yeah, I think so. It's just like, and like certain individuals just create moments for themselves. It's just what happens within certain sports. And, you know, you can never truly like account for why certain people become stars and why it happens. It just happens. And to like try to attribute it to something like white privilege or pretty privilege is nuts to me.
Yeah, and to your point, like women's tennis is awesome. It's fun to watch. And the women's, my favorite sport is beach volleyball, and the women's side of beach volleyball is better. I've said this a couple of times, but because the U.S. has a whole collegiate system to develop women's volleyball athletes, beach volleyball in particular, and they don't have a men's, so you have a deeper field. And just the way that it works is like in men's volleyball, they're able to just freaking crush and rip the ball, and it's more difficult to put it back in play defensively. Whereas in the women's, you get much more exciting rallies that go back and forth, and they're more dramatic and fun to follow. There was a video recently of one of the U.S. women's teams last year, got like 20 million views. People don't even watch volleyball. It just went viral because it was insane, the like saves she was making and running around the court and just doing crazy stuff.
That's fun.
Yeah, so I love women's beach volleyball for that reason, because it's like it's more exciting to watch, and women's tennis is the same. So I think that undercuts this idea that like, you know, women's sports can't be good, but it's also just, it's like how the cookie crumbles sometimes and the dynamics of the sport.
Yeah, for real, somewhat random tangent. This is how I feel whenever I play my boyfriend in ping pong. I'll like play ping pong and I want the ball to like keep going. You want it to be a long game or whatever, but boys just come in and they just spike the ball at you or whatever, and they feel like hit it as hard as they can, and they're like, I won. And I'm like, well, that's boring. You want to like go back and forth and make it interesting. Yeah. You can't just spike the ball on me. Oh my gosh. It's valid. It's valid.
Valid. Okay. No, we got that one. Ruben Moraga says, isn't saying that Caitlin Clark is succeeding because of pretty privilege also saying that all the other girls in the WNBA are ugly?
Right. It actually is, because you would think that a lot of them would benefit from pretty privilege. Also, like, I feel like most of them are pretty just like, they're normal looking girls, like you think. So I don't know. Just a strange thing to say. Again, it's like Sonny Hostin has already come to her conclusion. She's just like, she's already at the finish line and trying to fill in the race from her stance at the finish line. She doesn't care whether or not she's actually making sense. She's filling in to support what she already thinks. Nuts.
Totally. You got her.
Nuts.
35 never felt so good again says, the View is lucky I'm not president because I'd deport them for being too stupid. WNBA is riding high because of Clark, and all the View can do is cry racism.
Deport them to where is my question. Where would you send them?
Australia.
Australia. Convicts.
Australia.
No,
I don't know. Let's see. JSOL03 says, I'm not a fan about how all these sports apps are implying the teammates are not on Harrison's side. I don't agree is the only phrase they quote. Thank you for highlighting the full context.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I'm sure there's plenty of teammates that agree. I'm sure there's plenty that disagree, but they've all decided that I think what they're doing in the sport is far more important than what people are thinking in their personal time.
Trey Bannon says, Amala, Mr. Swift won't dare come out in defense of Butker because Taylor has him by his nuts. Taylor Swift, obviously not our dashing chat mod.
Well, it seems as though he has. He didn't really seem to care all that much about what was going on with this whole Harrison Butker thing. So, I don't know. It kind of makes you think. Makes you think. Pontificate.
Quazakule says, based Quasi's back. Cool glasses emoji. In a world where identity is so focused in a narcissistic sense, build yours on the based, honest adventure of your life. Love y'all.
Yeah, I can agree with that. You don't always have to be thinking the world revolves around you and me, I, all these different things. Sort of think about yourself in relation to the world and your community and what you got going on within it. That is a based quasi take, indeed.
Yeah, here. Welcome back. Thanks for that. Chase Staten again says, I work at a Kroger distribution center picking out ice cream and pizzas for delivery orders. 10-hour shifts at 20 below zero.
That makes
cheers
sense.
from Denver. Keep it up.
Damn. You got to layer up every single day for that job.
Sounds like
That's
my
a
wife's
lot.
personal hell.
Yeah. I don't like being cold like that. That would be tough. Tough indeed.
Yeah. I feel like you could, it's like a ice bath in the air.
Yeah, that's true. But for hours at a time, I'd be doing jumping jacks in the freezer.
Yeah, that'd be pretty wild.
Yeah.
I wonder how that works. You have to like alternate in shifts or something.
Right.
But happy to, be warming your mind at least with our content. If not,
right.
your
Aren't
body.
we?
Okay, anyway,
Aren't
moving
we?
on.
Warming your
Anisha
mind.
says, I have no words today. The craziness is too much. I'm lost for words. So just sending some love and happy Friday. Hope you guys have a great weekend.
Dude, these stories almost gag me too. These people are getting crazy.
Developing a nut allergy just from watching this.
Developing a nut allergy. I'm now allergic to peanuts. Yeah, no, it's tough. It's tough, but you gotta laugh sometimes. The first one, I didn't laugh. I can tell you that. The Ted Cruz thing, not funny in any context. But the other ones, at least we can have a little giggle.
A little chuckle. And actually, I think that is our last super chat today. So thank you, guys.
Guys, thank you for closing out our Friday show. I hope you liked this show. If you did, like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time we're live. That's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. 1 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern. Plus, we post videos for you guys every day. I would love for you to drop your thoughts in the comments down below on this video. Let me know if you disagree with me anywhere. We encourage healthy debate, so duke it out, but do so respectfully. And tomorrow, none other than Riley Gaines is on the show, former collegiate athlete, All-American, Olympic hopeful, fighting back against trans ideology within women's sports spaces rights. And we should be there to cheer her on tomorrow. I think I'm going to premiere the episode. We'll see. And maybe hang out in the live chat with you guys, because it's a little bit of a longer one. So yeah, and I think we got one more super chat.
Yeah, I got a couple more here.
Okay.
And my bad.
No worries.
Zechariah Blade says, hey, Amelin Taylor, I'm starting my own channel. Where can I get my own tailor?
Ooh.
Don't know.
I don't know.
One of a kind. You can
Yeah.
find editors and stuff on Fiverr and
Or
thumbnail
YouTube
makers.
jobs.
YouTube
jobs. I don't know where you find your own tailor. You can, I don't know, hit them up to freelance.
Yeah. We can talk about Lord of the Rings and volleyball if you want.
Yeah, that's true.
Sasha O'Neill says, happy Friday. This race war is just getting ridiculous. Should I also pay reparations to myself because I have both Arabic and Slavic ancestry in me?
Yo, these are the questions that the never-ending questions that come up when it comes to reparations and apologies and payment. And I say we call it square, call it even, call it a day.
Yeah, we're good.
We move on.
Last one, 35 never felt so good, says, to the young man turning 18 and going to dance, don't overdress, be confident, smell good, and get a haircut. You got this. If she says no, next.
The only thing I will say is beware of the haircut. I don't know. Well, girls don't really like it when guys get haircuts. I'll be very honest with you guys. It's actually an ongoing trend within the girl community, at least, of being terrified of your boyfriend getting a haircut. So I don't recommend getting a haircut right before a dance. I would say, days before, but you don't have that time. So I would leave your hair the way it is.
Yeah, the fresh cut's a big risk. Yeah, that's why guys, I think, get like they go to the same barber over and over again because like you know what you're gonna get and you don't want surprises.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
If you haven't gotten a haircut for a while, you don't have a regular thing, go get one. It's like
yeah. This is risky business. It's risky business featuring Tom Cruise. Guys, thank you so much for watching this show. Again, leave your thoughts in the comments down below, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow and we'll hang out and talk about Riley. Diva Dawn sends a last-minute super chat. I may owe my son reparations. He's Native American. I'm pretty sure you've paid your son enough, hopefully, in your raising of him and taking care of him. So hopefully he doesn't make the call in on that. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you tomorrow with Riley. Bye, guys.